This is not directly related to us, but it is definitely indirectly related in the sense if climate science becomes an obvious economic activity like green technology is suddenly the best bet for economic growth, then will that lead to climate solutions, environmental friendly economic growth, sustainability, net zero, etc. So the summary of why Nobel Prizes were handed out last year 2025, I'm recording this in February 2026, has this headline: Economics Nobel Prize won by researchers who showed how science boosts growth. So Joël Moquir, Philippe Aguillon, I don't know how it's pronounced, Philippe is typically a French name, and Peter Howitt share economic prize for work that underlines the importance of investing in research and development. Growth is generally not a term that was favored by other economists like Herman Daly, who actually got nominated for Nobel Prize but never won. It's better to call it development rather than growth, because growth is what has brought us all these issues to some extent in terms of resource exploitation in a rather mindless way and so on. So if science, green technology become also key for economic growth, then will it help climate action, international coordination for climate action as well? So these are the guys. You can see the 2025 Sveriges Riksbank Prize for Economic Sciences in memory of Alfred Nobel has been awarded to 3 researchers who have shown how technological and scientific innovation coupled to market competition drive economic growth. So when they say market competition, they are thinking about growth, not so much development. The differences are not trivial, growth and development. One half of the prize goes to economic historian Joël Moquir of Northwestern University in Evanston, Illinois, and the other half is split between the economic theorist Philippe Aguillon of the Collège de France and the London School of Economics, and Peter Howitt of Brown University in Providence, Rhode Island. I can't find the words to express what I feel. Aguillon said, he says he will use the money for research in his laboratory at the Collège de France. Award underlies the importance in investing in science for innovation and long-term economic growth, says economist Diane Coyle of the University of Cambridge. It's great to see the Nobel Prize recognize the importance of this topic, adds innovation policy researcher Richard Jones of the University of Manchester, UK. It's important that economists understand the conditions that lead to technological progress, he adds. The winners, says Coyle, have long been on people's list of potential candidates for the Nobel Prize in Economics. Well, that's nice. I will still keep saying that growth shouldn't be the mantra. Development should be fully accepted as a really different concept in terms of how economies grow in terms of exploiting resources in an irreversible way. Old isn't gold. Economic growth at a rate of about 1 to 2% annually is the norm for industrialized nations today, but such growth rates did not happen in earlier times despite technological innovations such as the windmill and the printing press. Moquir showed that key differences between now and then was what he calls useful knowledge or innovations based on scientific understanding. One example is the advances made during the Industrial Revolution, beginning in the 18th century, when improvements in steam engines could be made systematic rather than by trial and error. So, you made improvements in steam engine and then you started applying to everything. Even now we produce a lot of the coal power, nuclear power, etc. using steam engines of some sort, and weaving, etc. also happened in the past with steam engines and so on. Even in climate science, we say usable information and useful information, actionable information, etc. Aguillon and Howitt, for their part, clarified the market mechanisms behind sustained growth in recent times. In 1992, they presented a model showing how competition between companies selling new products allows innovation to enter the marketplace and displaces older products, a process they called creative destruction. This terminology has been used in many contexts now, but we need to apply creative destruction to fossil fuels and their investments into energy demands that, or our investment into using fossil fuels for energy, for building things, for making things, and for driving around, flying around, etc. Underlying growth, in other words, is a steady churn of businesses and products. The researchers showed how companies invest in research and development to improve their chances of finding a new product and predicted the optimal level of such investment. Entrepreneurial state then, according to economist Ufuk Aksijit, I don't know how it's pronounced, of the University of Chicago, Agio and Howitt highlight an important aspect of economic growth, which is that spending on R&D does not by itself guarantee higher rates of growth. Unless we replace inefficient firms from the economy, we cannot make space for newcomers with new ideas and better technologies. So internal combustion engines for cars can go in this sense. So when a new entrepreneur emerges, they have every incentive to come up with a radical new technology, Aksijit says, sorry for massacring your name. As soon as they become an incumbent, their incentive vanishes. So technology comes in, then lock-ins happen, so it's easier to use fossil fuels to build more internal combustion engine cars rather than move to EVs and so on, and they no longer invest in R&D to drive innovation. Thus, because companies cannot expect to remain at the forefront of innovation indefinitely, the incentive for investing in R&D coming from market forces alone declines as a company's market share grows. That's a shame. It's not like you make more money and invest in more in R&D, but you grow, take a lot of money in, and use profits for other things. To guarantee the societal benefits of constant innovation, the model suggests that it is in society's interests for the state to subsidize R&D as so long as the return is not merely incremental improvements. If you want to improve efficiencies of internal combustion engine cars, then that has to really reduce emissions in a significant way till we transition to full EVs and so on, because EVs also have to be charged and that energy also has to be clean and so on. The work of all three laureates also acknowledges the complex social consequences of growth. In the early days of the Industrial Revolution, there were concerns about how mechanization could cause unemployment of manual workers, a worry echoed today with the increasing use of AI in place of human labor. But Moke showed that, in fact, early mechanization led to the creation of new jobs, and now there are arguments by IEA and others also that renewable energies are bringing more jobs, new jobs. Creative destruction in the meanwhile leads to companies failing and jobs being lost. Agion and Howitt emphasize that society needs safety nets and constructive negotiations of conflicts to navigate such problems, so upskill and retrain the laborers instead of creating political and social havoc. Their model recognizes the messiness and complexity of how innovation happens in real economies, says Coyle. The idea that a country's productivity level increases by companies going bust and new ones coming in is a difficult sell, but the evidence that that's part of the mechanism is pretty strong. Obviously, people who lose jobs are not doing that for a greater good. They want another job. Timely message then. This year's award comes at a time when funding for scientific research is under threat in the United States and around the world. It's a very timely message when we are seeing the United States undermining so much of its science base and even disinvesting in climate action like renewables. Agian said, I don't welcome the protectionist wave in the US, and added that openness is a driver of growth. I see dark clouds accumulating. So basically, climate action is not going to be dealing together on global commons like the oceans and the atmosphere and future of climate and environment. It's going to be free for all, each for himself or herself, each state for itself. Then we are going to end up with a very different solution and a very different pathway for economic growth. Economic historian Kirsten Enflo, a member of the Nobel Prize awarding committee, denied that the award was intended as a comment on the direction of US policies. It's only about celebrating the work of the laureates and she said this at the press conference. Green growth. Then more recently, researchers are questioning the growth at all costs narrative, not least because of the ways to pursue growth has led to environmental degradation, including global warming. So this addresses the growth versus development concepts, but not in an open way. How can we make sure we innovate greener? So that's development. Agion said firms don't spontaneously do this, so how can we direct growth towards green? Mokir's work showed that growth can sometimes be self-correcting in the sense of producing innovations needed to solve such problems, but that's not a given and requires well-crafted policies to nurture innovation without promoting inequality and unsustainability. We need to harness the productivity potential and minimize the negative effects, said Agian. So ideas are there. Now it's up to us, climate economists and climate scientists and so on, to work together to make green technologies, climate solutions, mitigation, adaptation, everything be greener, and also show that economic growth benefits from that. If we sell climate change as an issue that has to be addressed without worrying about economic development, then it's not going to work. And no matter what's happening in the world, we sometimes keep on saying climate change is everything. But if you look around the world now in February 2026, the conflicts and all the strange political characters in control of the situations, it doesn't look good to have a tunnel vision on climate, but to understand the overall pocketbook issues, because people get elected when we ignore what people are worried about. Okay, so I will leave it there with my polemics.